Hey, everybody, it's once again time for our Rock for Him podcast. I've got my brothers, Jeremy and Jason, in the house. My name is Scott, and we also have our very special friends from our own backyard in Lansing, Michigan. We've got Voluntary Mortification with our brothers Connor, Jacob, and is it Jillian?
Julian, yeah.
Julian, sorry about that.
You're good.
Hi, guys, and how's everybody doing tonight?
Good. What's up?
Excellent.
Not bad.
Well, we are very privileged to have you tonight and excited to get you guys interviewed. We've been playing a few of your songs on our station, and why don't we just start with Jacob and go around and introduce yourself and maybe what you do for the band.
Yeah, so I'm Jacob and guitarist for the band.
What about you, Connor?
I do the vocals, the least important part of the band, you know.
Oh, I have so many questions for you, brother.
Oh boy.
Oh, wow.
How about you, Julian?
All right, I'm the newest member. I am the drummer, so I'm the loudest. I annoy him the most.
He's the foundation, man. The most important part of the band, that's for sure.
That's
So-
right.
How did you guys come together? And it sounds like Julian's new, but how long has the band been together?
Jacob, you want to tell a story this time?
Oh yeah, we have to like trade on and off. Yeah,
Yeah.
so Connor and I basically co-founded the band at this point. We're the remaining original members. I think we started around like 2019, 2018. So Connor and I met, we were doing this like thing for Lent, as it turns out, like this men's group that was like extreme disciplines and all that. And so we met through like a church group. And so we didn't really know each other. We lived down the street from each other. And but then we both found out we liked metal. And I think most people would know that there's not it, sometimes it feels like there's not a lot of people who are trying to practice their faith and listen to metal. So we hit it off on that right away. And then we found out more. Like I'd found out that Connor had actually like, been in bands and like been in the scene and like it kind of been on his heart to like start, a band with a mission, playing metal and trying to witness to the faith. And so that was a motivating factor for me as well. I had played guitar, basically in my basement, nothing really serious. And so we just started jamming. And it's interesting thinking about that because that's how a lot of bands start. But like we've come a long way. I mean, we've been through some lineup changes, we've been on tour, we've released an album. I mean, even that in itself is still a big accomplishment. And I mean, I think, we just played a show last month in Battle Creek, and that was probably one of the biggest highs that I've seen. I mean, we sold like 50 tickets, which is, I honestly, I think is a big deal. I mean, for a band our size and who's been around, and I mean, we were responsible for like a quarter of the people in that venue, and we had people coming from all around the state and places to see us, and um, so yeah, I mean, so we've kind of come a long way, and it kind of just started with two guys that were interested in metal and wanted to do something about it. I don't know. Do you want to add anything, Connor?
Yeah,
That's
that show was
awesome.
that show was humbling for us too, like seeing how far we've come. And it was Julian's first show.
Yeah.
And it was also our first I think our first sold out show was at the Music Factory. There was Borath was the headlining band, and there was 330, I think, is a max capacity for that venue. So it was packed, and it was just really cool. The amount of support we had, like our friends from No Barricade, she was running the merch. And she said, you got to buy new merch after the night. And I'm like, what? And I was like, yep. It's really cool, seeing people coming out and, they know that, like Jacob and I, especially, and like our mission has faith in our thematics and lyrics and everything. And, this is probably 95% of the people there are secular, and they're just there. And I mean, if we could just, plant a little seed, that's fine, that's all we really want to do. And Jacob missed one cool part of the story, which is I think, at least for me, like the turning point of, oh, we should make music is we went to, it
Oh
was
yeah,
fit
the
for,
show. Yeah.
we went to a show and we dragged our friend Father David, he's a priest in the Diocese of Lansing, to go to it. And it was with Fit for a King. And who else was on that bill? I just remember Fit for a
Oh, that
King,
was a
but
great bill. It was like Norma Jean, and then Kurt wasn't Currents there? No.
was that the same show? No, I don't think Currents was at that one. But
It was
anyway,
a
it
it
was
was a
just like
loaded lineup.
it was this loaded lineup and it was just a sweet show. And we were just like, I had felt calling, getting tugged from the Holy Spirit for a while to get back into music.
Hmm.
And that was it. And then I was like, hey, Jacob, why don't we jam? And we just wrote some little songs.
Yeah. And I feel bad for Julian because like Connor and I have been here from the beginning. But Julian has a cool entry into the band too. You should probably share your entry as well because I mean it's
Yeah.
pretty cool how we kind of come together and how we're, find each other sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. You want me to share how you guys
Yeah,
found me?
absolutely.
So, I had made some friends by filming in the Grand Rapids scene. I had made friends with the guys in Mouthful of Locusts. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but they are from Kalamazoo, just weird kind of mathcore, like kind of Converge-esque, just weird stuff. And um I decided I was gonna cover one of their songs in like September. So I had the boys send me the tracks and put it together myself in my basement down here and just put it on my Facebook and they reposted it and whatnot. And when they reposted it, they said, come out to a show and we'll let you hop on. And I was like, I made it. I did it. So at the Music Factory, at a show Voluntary was also playing, opening for the Convalescents. I hopped on for one song and they found me after. It was like, you guys, we need to connect because I guess you're pretty good. I guess supposedly. And that's kind of how it started, just through Mouthful of Locusts. So shout out to those guys because they're cool. They're cool dudes.
Well, it's just cool. Like it's just an illustration of like the way like we've had very interesting ways that we've like come across people in our band, and I would say it's all very providential. But we had been on like a months long drummer search. We were trying to replace our original drummer, and it was tough. I mean, it's a very important piece, especially for a death metal, deathcore band. And so just that, this kid hopped on to a kit. And what's funny is Connor and I were gone. We were out getting rallies. And the only person that was there was our other guitarist, and he spotted him. And so it just kind of started from just like because we tried everything else, like internet searches, word of mouth, and it just so happened that Julian jumped on the kit for this band that he's not even a part of. And
Hmm.
he sent us some tracks later. And I mean, I tell you, this kid right here, he's 17 and he is super professional, super talented. And we're really lucky to have him, honestly. And if you haven't seen him, I mean, he doesn't have any like recorded stuff that we can show you, but I mean, like we have like, he played his shows and we've tried to tease some stuff online, but we're really excited to have him, on a
Oh
recorded
yeah.
album at some point and show off his stuff.
Awesome. That is very cool. And before we get to any more questions, the reason I keep looking to the side is because I have Facebook Live up. So if you all that are watching and listening right now, if you want to post a question here in the chat, we'll throw it at the guys and try and stump them on some stuff. But one thing that we always ask every single one of our guests is how you came to know Christ. So if you guys could just kind of share your testimonies with us a little bit. Whoever wants to start first.
Jacob, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So, my faith story is I was born and raised Catholic. I was lived in a Catholic family. It was a pretty good upbringing. We kind of did the basics. We, said prayers around meals, went to mass weekly. But as you'll find, and I don't know what faith tradition you guys are, but one thing that the Catholics have is, people kind of grow up culturally Catholic, but they don't really own it. They don't really kind of enter into that relationship with Jesus. Like they don't really get to know God on a personal level. And so, when stuff like that happens, people kind of fall away. And so you see that. And so for me, like the faith didn't really get personal until I kind of, took it on my own. I don't know why, but I kept going to mass on a weekly basis, but that was about it for a while. And then I really got to a point where it kind of started. It's very interesting. I feel like I have kind of a lame conversion story because it's a very intellectual thing. It was like, well, I know I'm Catholic and I really want to like enter into the Catholic faith. I want to know what I'm doing. And so God really started tugging on me like intellectually where I wanted to like grow in the faith and understand it from an educational standpoint. But from there, that's where you kind of get into, diving into scripture more and frequenting the sacraments more, going to confession, going on retreats gives you some opportunities to really kind of, encounter God in a special way. And so that's kind of what happened to me. So in college, it just kept getting deeper, young adult time. I was seeking out people who were, trying to live, life to the faith. And so the role models of other people really helped me as well. And so the biggest thing was I went on a retreat when I was a young adult, like as a young professional. And the combination of the experiences that weekend and the talks really kind of like planted in me that like this is the most important thing. Like I need to build my life around a life of faith, a life where God is the center. And so that was kind of really a big turning point. But it's been kind of a gradual kind of, God continuing to draw me in and trying to, draw me deeper into a life of faith. So my conversion story is not really the lightning bolt story. It's more of the kind of the gradual deepening sort of thing. And I'm just really thankful for the people who set that foundation in my life, like my parents, and really good young adult people who are my peers, role models that lived really attractive lives that I wanted to emulate. So
Mm.
that's a little bit from my testimony.
Connor?
Jacob's a good man to emulate. We call him Brother Jacob of the band, and also Mr. Rogers because he's just such a stand-up guy. He's so clean.
I'm like
We
this, like just the least metal person in the
yeah,
band.
we think he'd wear like
I'm
he'd
trying
wear
to wear this
sweaters.
metal shirt to like convince you guys that I'm
No, no, man. You just need to wear a sweater, man. Just be yourself.
metal. So
Um, as Jacob was talking, I was trying to think of 2 points for me that were important, which I was baptized baby, in the Catholic Church, and my family was kind of just like Jacob's, which is it's kind of a commonality, especially we see like in the boomer generation. I mean, it's kind of the same thing around all Christendom, where there's a lot of just these cultural Christians that kind of just living in the flesh, living in the world, and so I was kind of just raised go on Sundays. I didn't really have like a prayer life or anything established. We'd like say our bedtime prayers and stuff. And so I am thankful, for that base foundation I got growing up. My parents divorced when I was young, and I did suffer, like some trauma and abuses growing up. And then it was really a big turning point for me was when, well, I want to say there's one big turning point when I was 17 and 16. My now wife at the time, we got pregnant 16, 17, and we had a lot of people that unhealthily responded to, us, and especially with choosing life and wanting to keep our baby. A lot of people, told us to get rid of it, and we're pretty pushy on it. And
Mm.
a lot of these people that, we thought, were like these good Christian Catholics and stuff, they just did not respond what you would expect. And it was actually my parents that responded really well. And I remember also just finding myself going to a local church and just like in tears, at 17, like confused and everything. And I'd say, the Catholic Church really adopted my wife and myself and treated us just right where we were at, and treated us as a son and daughter of God. And they met us right where we were at. They met us, in our sin too. And we came back into the church. We went through, like a confirmation prep through all of this. Or sorry, a marriage prep through all of this, and I went through confirmation. I really started diving into my faith. And, there was one point during all this too, where, I guess I could say I was approaching like almost like an atheistic nihilism for a while. And it's kind of the temperament I have, which is like being a melancholic. And really, I feel like God, it's been a gift for me in a way, because through my melancholy, through that like depression and that nihilism that I fought, is what made me really dive into the faith and search for more. Even through all these hard times, through that early pregnancy. And then we got back into faith pretty well there. And then what really was instrumental for me was probably, actually, I think it was before I met Jacob. Through Exodus 90, I went through a very bad suicidal depression. And I had something called depersonalization disorder for about 2 years. And if you've talked to anybody who has suffered from that and they recognize it, it is, I would say it's equivalent of like a living hell. Like I would not wish anybody had that. For about 2 years I had it, which is just, it started from a massive panic attack I had where I thought I was dying. Anyway, long story short, I don't want to be too, pity party here, because there's an ending of grace, which is, I fought through that. And there's one point where I pretty much just told, I told God, and I was like, all right, if this is what you want, then so be it. And I'll face it and get through it. And just gradually over time, I got better. I worked on trying to heal some of the traumas in my past, working with, church ministry. St. John Paul II Society was helpful, and, healing ministry, healing encounters through local parish. And it really helped me just kind of dive into what my true identity is, and, being a son of God. And that was kind of the second more profound conversion for me. And then that kind of led to me just trying to approach intentional discipleship really hard. And I kind of just dove deep into apologetics and like really studying my faith, and, trying to figure out why, how, when this happened. Because I am an intellectual, and I'm an engineer with my education and everything. So it's, people often think, oh, you can't be smart and be scientific and, be a man of faith. And it's like, well, actually, that's a pretty new invention to think that those are, somehow contradictory. So, but yeah, that's kind of mine. There's more to it, and people can always ask me, but I want to take too much time on it.
Julian, how about you?
Believe it or not, I'm actually not very religious, but having these guys being so unconditionally loving and being religious and having that that past, that backstory is just, it's inspiring, and I respect them completely for it, So that's about all for me, but
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Jesus wasn't religious. He wants us to live by faith, not religion.
yeah.
So, I mean, I, like you guys, I grew up Catholic, and I didn't understand a bit of it. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Like, I grew up, went through catechism, fell away from the faith, and it wasn't until I was 32 or 33 that I started attending a Baptist church, and God just grabbed a hold of my heart, and I've been blood bought since then. But I get what you guys are saying. Like, I have family members that are hardcore Catholics, and I just personally didn't understand when I was sitting in the services, didn't get a lot of what was going on as a young
Yep.
guy. I was so confused. So
Yeah. There's a deep cultural element to it. And, if you're raised Catholic, just being brought into the culture, but not understanding at all what is going on, it can be confusing, and a lot of
very
that,
much.
it's there's a big blame on, just the educators in the Catholic faith, especially over the past 100 years. And there's a resurgence now, thankfully, and among our generation. Um, as Jacob said, like, intentional discipleship is kind of an important thing now, especially in the world we live
Yeah.
today, which I'm sure you guys see that across, in all the other denominations and everything too.
Yeah, I mean, we look at it like, as long as you're followers of Christ, you're our brothers and we love you, right? I mean,
Yeah,
right.
I mean, and that's a whole nother area that we've encountered sometimes. But yeah, I mean, Christians, they need to be on the same team because there's a lot more out there we need to be doing besides like kind of fighting with each other sort of thing.
absolutely.
Like, have discussion, but like, let's not, be cutting each other down.
Exactly.
We get that a lot too.
Yeah, don't get Connor going.
Hey,
Well,
I think
go ahead.
Ernie's about to pop on too. So
Oh man,
Sweet.
Yeah,
Hey, we
yeah.
got a couple of
the
listeners here
reinforcements
that
arrived.
Broken Bottle Production says, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And Nick Picardi says, "Hey, guys." So got some
What's
people
up?
here watching.
Hi.
Bacardi, like the beer, like,
Cardi.
Picardi.
That's a rum.
Bacardi.
Picardi.
Connors,
I'm straight edge. I don't know anything about
you're so sober that you don't even know the kinds of alcohol. How shameful.
I got my drinking and smoking a weed done before I could legally do any of that. So
Connor, that was a powerful testimony, and it's exciting that you didn't listen to people telling you the improper information, and
For sure.
I'm glad the Lord was tugging on your heart to go that way. How old is the child now?
she's a teenager. She's 14. So, yeah.
Very
Oh,
nice.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So how'd you guys come up with your name? We always ask. I kind of read up a little bit about it, but maybe for the listeners, maybe share that.
So, first off, I have to say it out there. None of us knew of the band Mortification before we made the name. And
That's my only regret with it.
yeah, of course we catch a lot of crap for that. Some people be like, "Oh, you guys robbed it off." And it's like, okay, you know what? Mortification
Turns
is
out
a noun.
Turns out they're kind of a
Okay.
big deal in the Christian metal scene.
Yeah.
We didn't
Well,
know.
Mortification is a very Catholic and Orthodox, and some of your old high church Protestants. It's a very common, it's a commonly known word. It's a noun. Okay. So it was my friend one day. He was like, "Hey, if you ever, get into a band again or whatever, you should name it Voluntary Mortification because it's super brutal." I'm like, "Okay, yeah." So then, well, it happened, and we were like, "What do you? Why don't we just name it Voluntary Mortification?" So if you read our bio, like Scott, like you said you did, it kind of sums up. Jacob worded it really well. Jacob's an editor. He's so well versed. But he explains it as like, a lot of people, will question and be like, how can you make Christian death metal? And it's like, clearly you guys have never read the scriptures or looked up the history of Christianity because it is absolutely brutal. And mortification is a very brutal process that I would even argue many secular people would approve and stand by, which is, denying yourself fleshy desires or bodily pleasures and stuff to make yourself grow better. As a person, we're trying to grow our spiritual side, and battle the desires of the flesh and sin. And that's essentially what mortification is. And when you do it voluntarily, it's not involuntary where it's something that happens to you. It's where you voluntarily say, I'm going to deny myself this because I know it will bring me grace. It will make me stronger. So,
Yeah, it's kind of that like saying like, not only is the history of Christianity, but just like living, trying to live a Christian life is cool in the sense that like it's hardcore in that you have to do a lot of things that are not easy. I mean, to be faithful on a daily basis. I mean, like for me and Connor, who are married men, I mean, it means it's doing a lot of things on a daily basis you don't want to do, going to work and, that stuff might seem monotonous, but that's actually like, that's denying yourself and that's, carrying your cross. And so it's kind of so the idea of mortification is just like, it's rejecting just like I'm in it for myself and it's all about me and like trying to say like no, the real true like really extreme way is to like live this selfless life sort of thing.
mhm.
Very cool.
So, who are you guys influenced by? Like lyrically, musically, who are your guys' musical influences?
I mostly listen to secular music. I know, but
Eh,
I I'd say my biggest influences were, our age that we're in, us being like millennials, except for G, but G knows his stuff too, so it's pretty cool. Is like I really got into death metal and deathcore in the MySpace era of deathcore. So like Chelsea Grin and Carnifex and As Blood Runs Black and like Alicia and early Whitechapel. And a lot of those bands were huge for, you can probably tell if you listen to my vocals, like the vocal styles and stuff I do. Job for a Cowboy, I usually get told after shows like, oh, you sound like Johnny Davis from Job for a Cowboy. I'm like, thank you. That's the biggest compliment. Um, but before that, Slipknot was my big transition band into heavier stuff, when I was a 90s kid. And a lot of new metal stuff like Deftones is huge for me. Corn, maybe some Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park too. And I gotta thank my dad too, because he introduced me to a lot of the stuff that I listened to when I was younger, like um mostly grunge. I didn't really have a metal path besides the new metal into the heavier stuff. So I honestly don't know many 80s and 90s like metal bands, especially not hair metal bands. I've never listened to a song by Striper, and I think I'm just not going to because people will get so mad. But like Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana, Alice in Chains, a lot of that stuff earlier when I was younger, I'll still listen to.
I mean, you're naming off a lot of my favorites, so don't feel like
Yeah.
you're
Sweet.
out on an island here. I mean,
No, yeah, man. Oh, it's Black.
Oh yes, here he comes.
Yeah, Ernie is black too, and
Black
that's
is
his
back.
nickname.
Yeah, I kind of want to hear I kind of want to hear Julian's influences. I don't know how much we've talked about his since he's so new.
hmm
He might be like, I don't listen to those old guys' music.
Who?
as long as he doesn't come out with, well, I listen to Justin Bieber and I listen to.
That'd be hilarious. Whatever helps him
Swiftie?
drum great.
Yeah, basically all my listening came from my dad, who grew up as like a grunge head. So I was always listening to that stuff in the car with him and listening to, the bigger bands. And Metallica was obviously my gateway to metal, but then I started exploring like these subgenres and seeing like, oh, there's all these different subcategories. So I guess my big band that got me into like the subcategories was uh early Rings of Saturn. I've done lessons with their drummer, past drummer, Aaron Staccaner, and he's a great guy who is extremely talented. And thanks to him, I've gotten into like jazz and some trap stuff and just kind of all over the spectrum. So there isn't really, it just depends on the day, really, as to what I listen to. It's not, nothing's ever set in stone as to what I truly enjoy.
If you like what you saw today, hit the subscribe and like button down below, and don't forget to share it to all your friends. Also, leave us a comment down below. If you're gonna rock, rock for him.